Hello, Wildflowers, and welcome to a dark and stormy October evening at Belladonna Cottage on the eve of Samhain and Beltane. Tonight, as the veil between the worlds grows thin, souls from the underworld and creatures of the faerie realm are able to cross the sea of time, reaching out across the mists to whisper their forgotten stories to all who dare listen. It's the perfect night to share some favourite bone-chilling books I've read of late, each one an eerie delight for your spooky season reading list. The season of the witch is here, my friends, and these books are the perfect companion as the candlelight flickers and the thunder rolls. Ardent admirers of dark fantasy and wild, wicked women with a penchant for Gothic romance, I think you will love these stories. These are fairy tales that frighten, with lovers that bite, and ghostly mysteries that leave you afraid to turn out the light. So cuddle up with your beloved familiar and a cup of herbal tea, and let's begin. Oh, and for my wildflowers in the southern hemisphere, wondering what on earth I'm doing getting all spooky at Beltane, just remember, Persephone was both a fair spring maiden and the queen of the underworld. So don't be afraid to embrace your shadow side this October and have some witchy fun with our sisters in the north. After all, Halloween is just as much a mood as it is a season. First on my list is the deliciously deadly Gothic romance Belladonna by Adeline Grace. Of course, the flower-themed titles and beautifully illustrated covers of this series are what drew me to the book at first, but I was quickly drawn into this ghostly murder mystery set in a gloomy Victorian mansion. How could I not love this book with its themes of poisonous herbology, haunted gardens, and intriguing shadowy characters, like the Grim Reaper himself? At times, I felt as though I were reading a delightfully dark retelling of The Secret Garden, this time with lush romantic tension, glittering masquerade balls, supernatural powers, and characters with murderous intent. Well before I reached the end of Belladonna, I had already ordered the next two books in the series, named Foxglove and Wisteria, eager to devour what fresh dark delights await the characters next. It's perfect for lovers of murder mysteries and gloomy ghost stories on a dark and stormy night. Next up is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, and oh how I loved this macabre scary tale. I remember telling Mr. Rose that I found this book so clever and original, and how I found it more complex than other books in the genre, which I like. It was inspired by one of my favourite poems, The Highwayman, which impressed my inner literary nerd, and I was instantly gripped by the gloomy atmosphere the author weaves with her poetic storytelling. I loved the heroine Elspeth, with her monstrous, shadowy secret. I love the idea of the Providence cards that gift or curse their wielders with magical powers. I love the terrifyingly creepy spirit of the wood who leads you to your doom in the mist. And I love the nightmare, the monster who lurks within Elspeth's mind. The tension builds as the characters race against time to save the kingdom from a spreading, infectious dark magic, and I found myself holding my breath as I turned the pages, anxiously sipping my tea. Finally, the romantic storylines in this book felt real and beautiful, and the portrayals of young love and lust in this series were among my favourites. So I think One Dark Window is perfect for hopeless romantics with a morbid curiosity for creepy forests and twisted magic. Now, dear hearts, let me tell you about To Bleed a Crystal Bloom by Sarah A. Parker, an exquisitely dark reimagining of Rapunzel. This bloody fantasy romance is full of explosive tension, otherworldly creatures, gritty, complex characters, and visceral storytelling. But let me warn you, this book is intense. There's longing and desire, poetry and beauty, and it sweeps you along from the very first page. Personally, I don't enjoy books quite so graphic and violent, but then again, I just couldn't put it down. All-Eighth's character, to me, is a very accurate depiction of a traumatised young woman who has grown up isolated and neglected, struggling with deep emotions as her carefully constructed comfort zone and familiar routines crumble around her. This book hints at a larger, more epic world of magic and fantastical creatures, and I found myself wishing for a map as I tried to imagine how it would all unfold. To Bleed a Crystal Bloom is not for the faint-hearted, and it's sure to raise your pretty eyebrows with its steamy, page-turning tension. Another spooky read I just couldn't put down was Small Favours by Erin A. Craig, a really creepy, claustrophobic, slow burn thriller wrapped up in a fairy tale. With all of the suspense of an isolated village where strange supernatural phenomena amplify the growing atmosphere of fear and suspicion, little by little the winding mystery unravels and you get the sense that a dark, ancient magic is building. Silver-eyed monsters that you never quite see haunt the woods on the outskirts of town, trapping the characters into an oppressive nightmare. And as winter descends and supplies are dwindling, the heroine, Ellery, is left terrified and alone to protect her two sisters from hunger and an unseen evil. All the while, a sweet romance is budding with a handsome yet elusive stranger with secrets all his own. Indeed, the charming, puzzling Whittaker seems more like a woodland spirit the way he appears and disappears, and you're never quite sure if you can trust him, which only adds to the growing tension and has you looking over your shoulder until the very end. Small Favours is a must for fans of eerie, unsettling suspense and will leave you wondering what's lurking in the shadows. The next book on my list is House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. This book is a bloody, vampiric, erotic horror with all the murk and melancholy of a moody Victorian Gothic. The author paints an alluring picture of a desolate manor set on a sprawling estate where desperate young women plucked from poverty are traded comfort in exchange for their blood. Amidst the depravity and decadence, the atmosphere is disturbing as the protagonist Marion seems only to trade one living hell for another. Ensnared in a hypnotic seduction with the Countess Elizabeth, her journey is a slow descent into horror and violence until the truth of the House of Hunger is finally unveiled. This is a gruesome, monstrous mystery with a deliciously sinful centre. It's a twisted nightmare of obsession and bloodlust for lovers of vampire vibes and hair-raising horror. Of a similar mood, but with a more dark academia aesthetic, is An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. This is a retelling of the original vampire story, Carmilla, equally steeped in sexual tension and Gothic romance. This gloomy tale of blood, secrets, and insatiable hungers is set in the 1960s at an historic girls' college deep in the forgotten hills of Massachusetts. Isolated and eerie, it is not a place for timid girls. This is a tale of secrets, dark desire, and obsession that follows the heroine Laura, a poetry scholar, as she descends into a terrifying game of bitter rivalry and twisted devotion. Dark urges intensify between the young girls and their mentor, all tortured and toxic creatures strangled by jealousy and lust, and I think it's the perfect vampire story to curl up with on a gloomy October eve. Finally, let's talk about Psyche by Kate Forsyth, a beautifully woven, fairy tale-esque retelling of the ancient Greek myth of Psyche and her journey to the underworld to save her lover. Cast out to a remote, gloomy watchtower with Psyche and her sisters, I found myself quickly wrapped up in the beauty and tragedy of this story, with my heart aching for Psyche, her character written with far more nuance than the original myth. In this book, she is more liberated than her mythological inspiration. She is more than her supernatural beauty. She is strong, smart, creative, and cares deeply for others, despite all she has endured, making me all the more invested in her fate and desperate for a happy ending after she suffers so greatly at the hands of gods and men, only to fall in love with a man whose face she is forbidden to see. I really loved the recurring themes of herbalism, healing, and witchcraft in this book, as well as the wise woman archetypes and the divine intervention of my favourite goddesses, Hecate and Persephone. This is an empowering, witchy read set in a world of gods and monsters. It's perfect for lovers of myth and magic, with all the thrill of a descent into darkness as Psyche takes us beyond the veil into the realm of the dead and back again, not to mention the epic romance. Now, you didn't think I'd stop at just 7 books, did you? Of course, this little book witch has a stack more she's dying to read this spooky season, and so let's take a look at some brand new ones waiting their turn in my cabinet of curiosities. Starting with The Stars Are Dying. This one is described as a seductive, star-crossed dark romantasy inspired by the Greek myths of Australia, with beautiful, deadly vampires and dark bargains. It sounds deliciously spooky. Next is House of Salt and Sorrows, and the blurb on the back tells me it's a haunting, atmospheric and immersive tale of 12 cursed sisters living in a manor by the sea. It promises to be delightfully eerie. Last of all, I can't wait to read The Forest Where the Phoenix Sleeps, a nightmarish romance set in a fantasy world where magic reigns and horror lurks. It is described as an action-packed and treacherous tale with a wretched, cadaverous villain. What's not to love about that? I so hope you've enjoyed this spooky Samhain and Beltane crossover episode, sweet friends. And if you've been admiring this exquisite corset and witchy layered skirt I'm wearing, you can find them and so much more for your Gothic and cottagecore wardrobe at Scarlet Darkness. Whenever I wear this outfit with its luscious floral embroidery, ribbons and ruffles, I feel like a character from my own fantasy book collection, and I'm whisked away to a world of pure imagination. Be sure to use the link below and my code ROSE20 for your exclusive discount. Merry meet and merry meet again, Wildflowers. And remember, there's a little witch in all of us.